Hi, it's Nick on the 24th of July. Welcome to a new week. So I'm going to be broadcasting every day this week on the topic of leading with inspiration. Now those bring together, that title brings together two of my favourite things, leadership and my passion and fascination for leadership and what it is and how do we do good leadership, and also my passion for understanding I would call it the anatomy of inspiration. What does it mean to be inspired? What is this phenomenon of inspiration and how does it work, and how can we harness and access the power of inspiration for ourselves and each other? So that's what I'm going to be talking about each day this week, because I do believe that inspiration has, if you like, an anatomy to it. It's more than just a nice experience. It's more than just a nice word. It's more than just a spectator, entertainment kind of thing. Oh, I saw something and it was inspired. I think there's so much more to inspiration. So I'm going to be diving into it this week. And today I want to set the scene for what I personally think is at the heart of my fascination and passion for this whole idea of inspiring leadership. And it's this really, I think probably the great invitation of our times, the great need of our times in a way, is the question, how do we draw the best out of ourselves? How do we draw the best out of each other? It is my belief that if all the gifts and talents of everybody on the planet right now were drawn out and made manifest, that we would solve problems, we would get on with each other, we would turn the planet around. I really do believe that. I don't think I'm being naive to believe that. I think it would be literally true that if every gift and every talent were drawn out of every person right now, we would do amazing things together. So the question is, how do we do that? What is the phenomenon that would cause us to do that more? And for me, one of the major players would be this phenomenon of what I've come to call inspiration. So I'm just going to share with you a couple of thoughts today, and then I'm going to expand it as the week goes on. So, I've been on a personal journey for the last 30 years, and I suppose really what was at the heart of me leaving my corporate career nearly 3 decades ago now was this kind of curiosity. It's like, well, I feel there's so much more of me, and I want to make a bid to bring that out and to discover and bring out the best talents in me, the best qualities in me, the best talents. So initially that meant running my own business rather than working for a big company. And, decades on, I look back and I go, really what I wanted to do was bring out my best self and discover that. And a business seemed the best way to do that, although it doesn't have to be your own business to do that. But really it was this sense of wanting to follow a feeling of inspiration, because here's what I've come to believe now. I think there's kind of two ways of kind of interacting with ourselves, I guess, as well as each other, which is we either manipulate or we inspire. If we want to influence ourselves or each other, we either do it through some form of manipulation or we do it through an expression of inspiration. And I know that's a kind of big thing to say, and I do believe that it's pretty much true that, so much of what we do is to try and manipulate each other through fear and through guilt and all those kind of things. And we can do that to ourselves. We can manipulate ourselves. We can guilt trip ourselves. We can make ourselves scared to do things. Or we can access our sense of inspiration. And here's, I think, one of the core differences between what I would call, motivation and inspiration, if you like, is that we can motivate ourselves to do things and we can motivate each other to do things. And that can work to a large degree. So there's areas where motivation is a really helpful thing to access. And when it comes to truly drawing the best out of ourselves and each other, I think inspiration does it, because I think we only draw the best out of ourselves and each other willingly and voluntarily. I don't think there's a lever that we can pull in ourselves or a lever that we can pull in each other that says, you give your best or else. Whenever I give my best, or whenever I witness other people giving their best, it's not because they feel manipulated or guilt-tripped into giving their best. It's somehow that they've felt safe enough to give their best. They've really wanted to give their best. So I think that's what is fascinating to me. It's like, how do we create these environments where people feel safe enough and inspired enough to want to give their best qualities, their best performances, their best gifts? Interestingly, just yesterday I was having a conversation with a friend as we were walking over Hampstead Heath, and she's been working in an organisation for 13 years, and she said, you know, basically for the last 13 years she's not been inspired by the leadership of her own organisation, and there's now somebody come in, a woman at the top of the organisation. I'm not going to mention it because it is a household name organisation. I don't want to break confidentiality. And what my friend said was, for the first time in 13 years, I really feel inspired about the leadership. I really feel like I want to give my best in ways that I don't feel like I've wanted to or been able to before. I just thought, isn't this fascinating that that having an inspirational leader changes the whole emotional, energetic climate potentially of an organisation. I believe inspiration is contagious. You know, one inspiring person can influence a lot of people, just as one fearful or you know, guilt-driven person can influence a lot of other people. So yeah, it's this idea of like, how do we set up the conditions in ourselves, how do we set up the conditions for each other that we naturally, willingly and voluntarily want to show up with our best. So that's what I'm going to be pursuing this week in these broadcasts. Yeah, and I'm just wondering if there's anything else I want to add today. No, I think that's probably enough for today. So yeah, you know, this difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivation tends to come from personality in my experience, whereas inspiration tends to come from our deeper place, you know, whether we call that our soul or our essence of who we are. So I think one of the things that inspiration does want to do is it wants to bring us back to our deepest self, our truest self, our authentic self. It doesn't want us so much operating from our sense of personality. It wants us to operate from the deepest truth of who we are, if you like, our soul, our essence. Okay, so I hope that's been interesting and helpful. I will be broadcasting for the next 6 days as well on this subject. So be back tomorrow. God bless. Have a good day. Bye-bye.